Final ending to the boomer problem, part 1 down below. Men seemed to only pursue Connie for fleeting pleasures, quickly moving on whether or not they attained what they desired. In her eyes, she was merely an object of desire, a sentiment that Roger confirmed. Seeing no future with him, she questioned the point of their connection. A new realization struck her: jealousy. Rob's love for Cheryl was so deep that witnessing her with another man shattered his world, driving him to extreme actions and abandoning his life and commitments. This intensity of emotion was alien to Roger, who appeared indifferent to sharing Connie with others, suggesting a lack of genuine care for her. This revelation made Connie rethink her understanding of men, drawing her towards the complexity of emotions like Rob's. Leaving behind the office of Roger and Rob, Connie returned to her workplace, settling into her routine and interacting briefly with her office manager, with whom she shared a somewhat pragmatic relationship. She then reached out to Cheryl, expressing concern and arranging a lunch meeting in the park. As she awaited Cheryl, surrounded by the everyday scenes of a park, her anticipation grew. Cheryl arrived with lunch, and amidst the casual setting, they delved into discussions, possibly about a scheme they were concocting, hinting at a deeper layer of their relationship and shared experiences. "Oh, it's definitely more interesting than that," said Connie, grabbing a can of Pepsi and opening it with a click. "Spill the beans," urged Cheryl. "Fine, fine," Connie replied, feigning indifference. "I ran into Rob today. We exchanged numbers, and I'm hoping he calls me soon so we can catch up." Cheryl's expression turned from shock to a smile as she sat silently for a moment. "How is he? What did he say? Did he bring me up? Did you mention me? Does he dislike me? Where was he? How long has he been back?" She bombarded Connie with questions without pausing. "He's okay," Connie answered calmly. "He didn't bring you up. When I hinted at you," his expression darkened. "He seemed really tense at the thought of you. That's not good, is it?" Cheryl fretted. "It means he dislikes me." Tears began to stream down her face. "Cheryl, it's too soon to tell. Maybe he's just upset because he cared about you deeply," Connie consoled her. "Just give it some time." As Cheryl was about to ask more questions, Connie's phone rang. "Hello," Connie answered, her tone softening. "Oh, I'd love to. Sure, I'll keep my promise. It'll just be us. Maybe you could show me your thing first, then we'll go from there, see what happens." Cheryl looked puzzled, listening in. "One of your suitors?" she asked with a smirk after Connie ended the call. "Not at all, it's yours," Connie retorted with a smirk. Cheryl grinned. "Why the big smile now? Divorced or not, he belongs to me. I don't need to know about his intimate encounters with someone else. It would be too much for me." "You mean like what you did to him?" Connie inquired. Cheryl's face lost its color, and she began to weep. "It was meaningless. It was just a fleeting moment. It had nothing to do with my love for him. I was just curious," Cheryl explained. "So how is it different when he's with someone else?" Connie pressed. "Sometimes, Cheryl, you really baffle me. It's like women criticize men for being frivolous with their affections, not grasping romance, or the depth of emotional bonds. You had someone who adored you, and you spoiled it by being unfaithful. You keep trying to excuse it by saying it was meaningless or out of curiosity. But when we talk about him doing the same, suddenly it's unacceptable. Isn't that hypocritical? It just doesn't make sense." Cheryl stared at the ground. "I can't undo what's done. I can only improve the future," she murmured. "I hope you realize what you lost," Connie said softly. "Roger mentioned today he wouldn't mind being just another notch on the bedpost for me. It seems he's content as long as he's satisfied. It made me see that none of my past relationships really cared about me." Connie also looked down, lost in thought. "I get why you're so hurt, but you need to accept that maybe you wounded him too deeply to repair things. I didn't see the full picture until I saw him today. He suffered more from this than you have. You were aware, at least to some extent, of your actions and their consequences. You were seeking something. He was completely taken by surprise by the person he loved most. He might never love or trust someone again. I'll find out more when I see him tonight." After leaving work, Connie drove to the bar where she had first seen Rob and his friends, including Roger. She took the same seat where she had seen them. Throughout the day, her frustration with Roger had grown. She had once toyed with the idea of a more serious relationship with him, but now she knew that was impossible. She had been open to fleeting encounters in the past, considering them temporary liaisons rather than serious commitments. Previously, the thought of being with the same person repeatedly bored and repelled her. She had no qualms about liaisons with married men, seeing them as temporary engagements rather than theft. But lately, the idea of a committed relationship appealed to her. The most surprising moment came after the lunch with Cheryl. It wasn't just her harsh confrontation with Cheryl over actions she herself was guilty of, but the aftermath, watching mothers with their children, feeling an unexpected yearning. She found herself absent-mindedly caressing her stomach, as if nurturing a nascent hope. Connie was brought back to the present as Rob made his way to her table with cautious steps, reminiscent of someone navigating through a dense thicket, wary of hidden dangers. She took another moment to assess him. He stood tall, around 6'0", with a well-built frame, dark brown hair, and matching eyes that seemed to carry a hint of skepticism and depth, though her friend Cheryl had mentioned that wasn't always his demeanor. "Hi, Rob," Connie greeted, flashing her most charming smile. She caught the attention of a server and ordered for them. Rob offered to cover the bill for their drinks, but Connie reminded him that since she had initiated the meeting, it was only fair that she handle the expense of the first round. "I'm aware it's about her," he mentioned. "Yet, it's irrelevant now. I've moved on. It's nearly been a year. I've grown stronger," echoing the who, "I won't get fooled again." "So, you've moved past her?" inquired Connie. He nodded, his smile radiating confidence. "Cheryl," she uttered. His expression darkened. "Cheryl Thomas," she continued. He scowled and dabbed at his eyes. "Remember, the anniversary of your wedding to her was last Friday. 15 years, wasn't that supposed to be the highlight of your life?" "No," he managed to say. "Are you being truthful with me, Rob?" she probed. "No," he replied with irritation. "That was only the second best day, the best was when I first met her." He made to leave once more. "Rob, hold on," Connie implored gently. "I don't intend to upset you or cause any harm. I'm just being straightforward with you. I actually admire you, and I want to be there for you, whether you trust me or not." "Why, Rob, I'm aware of your ordeal. Cheryl confided in me last Friday. I understand her actions and their consequences on both of you. I see the sacrifices you made and how things concluded. I've seen how her presence and love transformed your life. Perhaps I'm seeking a bit of that enchantment myself," Connie revealed. "I've made it clear I'm not looking for a fling," Rob stated. "I'm not proposing a fling," Connie clarified. "I'm offering something you need more." "And what's that?" he inquired. "A companion," Connie responded. "You need someone to confide in occasionally, even if it's just a listener. You've heard of friends with benefits. How about friends without the benefits?" He regarded her thoughtfully, sitting down, which seemed promising. She noted his drooping shoulders and the weary look on his face, realizing the confidence he initially showed was merely a facade. "I cherished her deeply," he confessed. "Rob, she holds you dear as well," Connie assured him. "More than you can imagine. Nobody's flawless, Rob. We all err and make poor choices. We take things for granted and later realize that our dependables are conditional. For the last 11 months, that woman has been tormented. She's had to endure the guilt of a grave mistake that pushed the love of her life away. Can you fathom that kind of agony?" His gaze shifted so swiftly, she could have sworn he blinked. The once tender, sorrowful expression turned into one of sheer irritation. He stood up abruptly and took Connie's arm, guiding her out of the bar. He revisited their earlier conversation about the hardships faced by Cheryl. Connie agreed, stepping out of the car to a nearby bench by the gently lapping waves. The moonlit setting could have been romantic under different circumstances. "Do you think what she experienced compares to loving someone so deeply you alter your life plans to include them?" He pondered. "Cheryl was my everything. My actions were always for us, her needs before mine. I sensed her infidelity immediately but waited, hoping it was a one-time mistake, perhaps driven by intoxication or coercion. The thought nagged at me, prompting me to hire a detective, despite feeling it betrayed my trust in her. I was prepared to overlook the first incident to avoid losing her, sacrificing my pride for our relationship. Learning of the second incident devastated me, leading me to isolate myself in our home, distancing myself emotionally and physically, tormented by confusion and a sense of betrayal. The revelation of a third incident forced me to confront her. I planned to leave quietly post-confrontation but ended up overwhelmed by the pain of their words. I needed her to realize her actions' impact on me, harboring a faint hope that she still cared for me on some level, despite her actions contradicting the love I had for her. I faced the greatest error of my judgment when I entered my home that day. They were so engrossed with each other that my presence went unnoticed. Another man was with my wife, engaging in an intimate act, oblivious to everything else. The notion that it was against her will faded quickly. She seemed unresisting, absorbed in the moment. My feet were rooted to the spot, a feeling of deep betrayal slicing through me with each of their movements. I've pondered over the differing perspectives between genders, striving for a modern understanding, yet I falter. There's an intrinsic belief in men that their partners are uniquely theirs. This woman was my chosen life companion, with whom I envisioned a shared future, children, and a lifetime of togetherness. The idea that she and I were exclusive was a naive dream. Hearing derogatory remarks from that man, questioning the future she desired, was excruciating. My heart raced, echoing so loudly I thought it would reveal my presence. Her response to his vile suggestion shattered me further. I had hoped for a denial, a remembrance of our shared dreams, yet her affirmation was clear. Observing the physical culmination of their act, I felt a part of me wither, losing my capacity for trust, love, or innocence. In that moment, my only attachment became material, as I sarcastically applauded their display, reducing her to nothing more in my eyes. I threatened the man to maintain silence, but he provoked me, leading to a confrontation. I had intended to leave quietly, acknowledging her autonomy over her body. Love, I realized, was the foundation of commitment, a sentiment evidently unshared by her. This realization spurred my aggression, followed by a decisive severance from her life, abandoning everything associated with her. Relocating for work, I started anew, with friends and family respecting my desire for distance from her. Exceptions were made for my mother, given her age and loneliness. However, I made it clear that any breach of my privacy through Cheryl would result in lost contact. Returning to the area for my mother's health, I've managed to avoid Cheryl, save for an accidental meeting, reinforcing my resolve to stay clear of shared spaces and pursue solitude, maintaining the peace I've found in separation. I really don't care about her actions or her companions. Her actions can't harm me more than they already have. So, spare me the tales of her suffering. She had options. She's responsible for the consequences. Connie noticed he seemed more composed then. Let's head back to the bar, he suggested. Stay a bit longer, she urged, guiding him back to sit next to her. She's not seeing anyone, she's barely active. She often talks to your mother and visits her occasionally. She's tormented by the damage she caused to your marriage, as are you. Can't you find it in you to forgive her? Connie inquired. Rob remained silent. A cool breeze made Connie shiver, yet she wasn't ready to depart. Rob, wearing a shirt and a sweater, removed his sweater and draped it around Connie, surprising her. What do you do to unwind, Rob? I just watch shows in my spare time. They chatted for a while longer before Rob escorted her to her vehicle. She drove off and immediately phoned Cheryl. Connie relayed the entire conversation to Cheryl, whose heart sank hearing Rob was aware of Cheryl's past mistakes. Although it was a few incidents, hearing them from Rob's perspective felt like a deep wound reopened. Hearing about his feigned illness to avoid intimacy made her relive the guilt and sorrow. The recounting of the specific incident that led to Rob's departure made Cheryl physically ill. She envisioned the distressing scene, feeling an overwhelming sense of despair. Didn't you tell him I didn't find joy in those moments with Greg or anyone else, and that my words were just to hasten the end? I doubt he would have accepted that, Connie replied. So he truly thinks I don't love him and I favored others over him? Cheryl asked. He's mistaken. He's the only one I've ever loved. I respected my parents, but my feelings for him are unparalleled. He's misunderstanding everything. You must convey the real reasons behind my actions, Connie. He needs to understand the truth, Cheryl implored. Cheryl needs time, Connie advised. He needs space to heal before you can even think of winning him back. In the following weeks, Connie frequently communicated with Rob. Initially, their chats were brief phone calls, but gradually these interactions lengthened, and Rob began initiating calls too. They soon progressed to outings together. Rob found comfort in sharing his thoughts with Connie, who tactfully avoided pressing the Cheryl topic. She often mentioned Cheryl's enduring affection, yet Rob seemed indifferent. Connie kept Cheryl in the loop about her conversations with Rob, sometimes recording them for Cheryl to hear Rob's voice, reinforcing her ongoing emotional connection to him. Cheryl, despite initiating the divorce to honor Rob's wishes, still viewed him as her partner. Later, Cheryl suggested a three-way call, yearning to hear Rob's voice directly, despite her reservations. She observed a stark contrast in Rob's tone when discussing different subjects, lively and spirited on general topics with Connie, yet reserved and quick to change the subject when it came to Cheryl. Cheryl had also noted a peculiar change in Connie's demeanor when recounting a recent lakeside outing, hinting at Connie's growing feelings for Rob. Caught in a dilemma between pursuing a relationship with Rob and maintaining her friendship with Cheryl, Connie faced a tough decision. She could not have both. Gaining Rob's affection might mean losing Cheryl's friendship. Rob mentioned he had only seen the woman at the event, not met her. Connie and Cheryl relaxed, realizing they had overreacted about a distant stranger. Connie wondered why Rob hadn't introduced himself. He admitted feeling too shy and doubting his appeal to such an attractive person, which eased their worries. Discovering Rob hadn't dated since parting with Cheryl, he confessed it was time to try again, despite his mistrust, except for Connie and his mother. Connie hinted he might already know his interest, prompting Cheryl to react sharply. She urged Rob to pursue his interest, suggesting he either express his feelings or remain an observer in life. Cheryl, visibly upset, accused Connie of wanting Rob for herself, leading to a heated exchange. Connie defended her intentions, insisting she supported their reconciliation but wouldn't deny her feelings if things didn't improve between Cheryl and Rob. As my friend, you need to understand that I'm not the type to give up easily on getting him back. No matter the circumstances, if our initial plan fails, I'll devise another strategy. Should he relocate, I'll exert every effort to locate him, steadfastly waiting for his return, indefinitely. I made a mistake once, but rest assured, it won't happen again. Even if he ends up marrying you, I'd rather stay secluded, patiently anticipating your departure from his life. Not that I'd wish harm upon you, but I might indulge in the harmless act of venting my frustrations on a doll resembling you, occasionally expressing my angst through it. Connie, taken aback, inquired, really? And why would you do that? It's simple, Cheryl responded. Each visit would be an opportunity to see him, subtly reminding him of what he's missing out on. And if you ever so much as give another man a friendly embrace, I'd be the first to inform him, ready to console him. And if he were unfaithful to you, Connie prodded. Cheryl retorted with a sharp tone, I wouldn't mind. Because, in that scenario, I either emerge as his chosen one, or you two part ways, paving my path to victory. Ultimately, Rob and I will reunite, regardless of the hurdles. Before Connie could process Cheryl's vehement words, the phone interrupted their tense conversation. Ignore it, let the voicemail catch it, Cheryl snapped. As the phone rang, they overheard Rob's message, laden with indecision and resolve, hinting at a new pursuit in Michigan, influenced by Connie's advice, unknowingly steering him away from their tangled triangle. Cheryl, overwhelmed by emotions, stormed out, her departure marked by hasty and reckless driving. Connie, meanwhile, grappled with the realization that her well-intentioned counsel had inadvertently directed Rob towards another, potentially altering their dynamic forever. The aftermath left her contemplating a more assertive approach once Rob returned, hinting at the complexities of their entwined emotion and unspoken desires. If Rob was ready to start meeting women again, it meant he was ready to be out and about. Connie was determined to catch his eye, regardless of Cheryl's opinions. As Connie shut her door, a loud crash echoed through the neighborhood, sounding dangerously close. An uneasy feeling washed over her. Snatching her cell phone from the table, she dashed outside. While Rob cruised along the highway, his phone began to ring. Opting to ignore it, he figured it would just go to voicemail. However, his phone persisted, breaking his concentration. Glancing at the screen, he saw Connie's name. He remembered promising to call her after his trip and reluctantly answered. "Rob, are you driving already?" Connie inquired, brushing off his abrupt tone. "Yes, I am," Rob replied, his voice tense with irritation. "You need to come back immediately," she urged. "It's Cheryl. She's had an accident with her car. She's seriously injured and at the hospital." Before she could finish, a loud noise suggested Rob had dropped the phone, followed by the screech of tires. "I'm on my way," he asserted, asking for the hospital location. Arriving at the hospital about 30 minutes later, Rob found Connie in the waiting area and rushed to her side, bombarding her with questions about Cheryl's condition. Connie explained, "She's in surgery. They're fixing her ankle with a pin and she has multiple fractures. She's also got a severe head injury and hasn't woken up yet. The doctors are concerned about potential brain injury and mentioned a lengthy recovery period." Rob, overwhelmed, simply closed his eyes and shook his head in despair. She stormed off, her mood a mix of fury and despondency, leaving Rob in her wake. Her driving was erratic, not due to her emotional state alone, but because she neglected to turn on her headlights. Unseen at an intersection, another vehicle collided with hers. It was a tragic mishap. Why is she so distraught? Rob pondered aloud. Pacing anxiously, Rob was visibly upset. Connie observed him and then exclaimed, "What's gotten into her? Such recklessness." Rob implored, "I hope she's unharmed." Rob, bewildered, questioned, why would she act so rashly? Connie blocked his way, saying, "Rob, I can explain, though you might not accept it. Her distress stems from you. Despite everything, she harbors feelings for you. Her actions were a result of your intentions to pursue someone else." Rob was taken aback, struggling to accept that Cheryl might still have feelings for him. "Let's not delve into this now," Rob suggested to Connie. "We need to focus on her well-being first. Later, we can sort out the blame and make amends." After a tense wait, a doctor finally informed them that she was stable but unconscious in her third-floor room. "May we visit her?" Connie inquired. "Yes," the doctor replied, "but she's still unconscious." In the hospital room, Connie paced while Rob sat by Cheryl, holding her hand. Connie left in the morning, promising to return after some rest. Alone with Cheryl, Rob was plagued by guilt and regret. He spoke to her, expressing his deep hope for her recovery and lamenting their lost happiness. He yearned for a chance to rewind time and mend their relationship, regretting the events that led to their current plight, including the accident and their shared past year of unhappiness. Rob thought he saw a slight movement, but then realized it was just an involuntary twitch, probably from a dream. "This is really tough," he sighed. "You're in bad shape, and we're clueless about when or if you'll come around. I'm a wreck, too. I've stopped caring about much. The other night, I had a different kind of nightmare, not the usual one with you and him together. This time, I was old and alone, turned into a bitter, angry man. That's why I'm considering Connie's suggestion to start over. I don't want to end up a lonely, bitter old man. I need to find someone to share my life with, to find happiness again. Cheryl, I'm not sure you ever loved me as I loved you, but right now, I'm feeling empty inside. I don't want to live like this, feeling nothing. I still dream of being a father, a good one, and I want that future, but it seems it won't be with you. The doctors can't figure out why you haven't woken up. They've run every test and found nothing wrong with your brain, but they say some issues might not appear immediately. Just in case things don't turn out well, I want you to know how much you've been loved. For nearly 16 years, counting our dating period, my love for you was boundless. You were my world, and the thought of never speaking to, holding, or kissing you again is unbearable." Rob leaned in and gently kissed Cheryl's forehead, her heartbeat increasing slightly on the monitors. A nurse noted the change in her vital signs. Connie, who had returned a few minutes earlier and heard Rob's soliloquy, noticed the increase. Cheryl, too, was aware, having awakened during Rob's monologue. Despite her pain, she yearned for him to continue talking, feeling a surge of emotion when he kissed her, struggling to feign unconsciousness. Connie entered quietly, asking, "Is she okay?" She's not awake yet, Rob replied, his concern evident. But if you're so indifferent, why the worry? Connie probed, facing Rob's silent, stern glare. Why don't you head home, freshen up, and grab a bite to eat, Connie suggested. I'll cover here, and if there's any change, I'll give you a call. Rob acknowledged with a nod and exited the room. Connie settled into the chair next to the bed, extracting a magazine from her bag. Bet you're annoyed you missed out on the excitement, she remarked to the unconscious figure. I was actually awake, Cheryl retorted, her eyes flickering open. I'm torn between being upset over this headache and your untimely entrance. It's so frustrating. For the first time in nearly a year, we were connecting. He even kissed me, and you just had to walk in and spoil it. Connie merely shrugged, a smirk playing on her lips. When Rob returned to the hospital, arms laden with flowers, he consulted with a doctor about Cheryl's health. He was informed that, with a few months of therapy, she should recover well, despite some minor memory issues. They were assessing when she might be discharged, given the hospital's policy to minimize observation stays due to capacity and financial constraints, preferring home care with family oversight. Rob entered Cheryl's room just as Connie was speaking to a nurse. Another nurse approached him, smiling, and handed him a form to complete. After filling it out, he glanced towards Cheryl, who hadn't yet noticed him. As he caught her eye, her expression brightened. Hi honey, I missed you, Cheryl greeted, looking radiant despite her injuries. She extended her arm, hinting for a kiss. Cheryl, what's going on with you? Rob inquired. She looked puzzled. What do you mean, Rob? Isn't it normal for us to kiss when we meet and part, especially after 12 years together? The nurse then explained to Rob that Cheryl was experiencing some memory gaps and might not recall recent events clearly for a while. She advised him to be patient and reassured that familiar settings at home might help her regain her memory more fully. With a reassuring smile, Rob approached Cheryl, ready to navigate this new reality together. Did you speak with the nurse, dear? I certainly did, darling, he replied, his tone dripping with sarcasm. And where's my kiss? It's likely somewhere you wouldn't expect, he retorted sharply. I shouldn't have even bothered showing up here. I could have been at the show in Michigan right now. But no, I had to be naive and too trusting. Connie and Cheryl just looked at him, taken aback. For 14 years, Cheryl, 14 years I was your husband, truly believing in the love we shared. But then, the harsh truth of your feelings hit me. I didn't seek revenge or try to hurt you. I simply walked away after you shattered our marriage and my trust. Yet, it seems walking away wasn't sufficient for you. Yes, Cheryl, I played the fool. I bet you found amusement in that over the years. But not anymore. You managed to tug at my emotions, making me rush here, worried about you. Sure, some feelings linger because I did love you deeply. But I'm no longer the one you can deceive. What are you saying? Cheryl asked, tears streaming down her face. You do love me, and I love you deeply. That's why we got married. Why we plan to spend our lives together, happily. Cheryl, stop the act, Rob interjected firmly. Your pretend amnesia won't work on me. My concern for your well-being doesn't mean you can play these games. You might have convinced the medical staff, but not me. What games? Cheryl implored. We ended our marriage about a year ago, Rob stated firmly. What happened, Cheryl? Got tired of chasing after new thrills, so you thought you'd toy with me again. Perhaps I could walk in on another one of your escapades. Honestly, I still question the whole ordeal. What was your plan? After causing such a mess, were you planning to leave, or try to make me believe in a lie while you continued your secret rendezvous? Rob, you're misunderstanding everything. Let me explain the real situation, Cheryl pleaded. Will you finally be honest? Rob questioned, noticing the doctor and nurses nearby. Yes, about all three guys. Yes, and every guy since we split. He pressed. That's easy, there hasn't been anyone, not even a date, since then, Cheryl clarified. Look at this, Rob addressed the doctor and the nurses. You can't trust her. She's the biggest fibber. She's not suffering from any memory loss. The medical staff looked taken aback. Rob, I admit I made a huge mistake. I sought out something that ended up not being worth the sacrifice, Cheryl retorted. But I've never lied to you. Rob faced Cheryl again. You promised to be true only to him, to forsake all others, Rob accused. Remember your vows. Wasn't that a lie? Holding the flowers, he realized his anger, threw them away, and left without another word. On his way home, Rob's phone started ringing. Why didn't we wait until she was stable? Connie questioned. I feel like helping your wife is becoming my responsibility. What did you expect, Connie? Rob responded. The moment she began speaking, I could tell it wasn't genuine. You're what? My nonsense detector, Rob explained. This was our first conversation in a year, and rather than appreciating my visit, she tried to manipulate me again. She's never straightforward. But maybe I'm to blame too. She's deceived me for so long, perhaps she thought she could do it again. Maybe she's telling the truth, Rob, Connie suggested. What do you mean? I think you're being foolish, Rob, Connie stated, for not just one, but two reasons. I haven't been deceived by her, Rob claimed. Firstly, Connie continued, you're viewing a woman who cares deeply for you as someone who's playing games, which isn't the case. You've never allowed her or anyone else to express their feelings to you fully. What I see is a woman who loves you so much that she's willing to do anything, no matter how foolish, to win you back. Yeah, sure, Rob responded. She's only reaching out to me now because her other flings won't be around until she's well again. She doesn't have other flings, Rob. If she did, they must be really into drama, sitting there every night, listening to her cry to me about you. You two were deeply in love for 14 years. She made a mistake over 2 weeks, and you ended it all without hearing her out. It makes me think that maybe you were looking for a way out, Connie retorted. Rob looked at Connie with frustration. Besides, another reason you're being foolish is because you're not honest with yourself, she continued. And what's this great truth I'm supposedly hiding, Connie? The truth is, despite everything, you still love Cheryl. You love her as much as she loves you, Connie asserted. Now you're the one being silly, Rob countered. I can't stand her. She irritates me so much. Then why aren't you off pursuing your ideal partner? Connie challenged. And before you deny your feelings again, remember, I was there in the hospital room. I heard all you said to her, and I saw how you kissed her. What do you expect from me? Rob asked. Just keep your word, Connie advised. Once she's better, you two can figure things out, or not. But we both want her to recover, so let's ensure that happens. You can start by coming back here. Later, Rob returned to the hospital room. Connie led him to Cheryl's bedside. Cheryl attempted to sit up and smooth her hair as he approached. Cheryl, don't worry about that, Connie interjected. We need to come to an agreement here, or you're facing a bleak future. We'll call it temporary peace until you're recovered. To make this time bearable, we need to set some ground rules. Until the truce is over, we are just friends. We won't talk about your past relationship or anything related. Understood. Connie laid out the plan. Yes, confirmed Rob. Crystal, replied Cheryl. Rob, you will support Cheryl faithfully until she fully recovers. Agreed. Cheryl inquired. Rob glanced at Connie with a sharp look. That's quite a harsh way to put it, considering I wasn't the one who was disloyal. Connie shot him a stern look. Agreed, Rob conceded. Cheryl, you will refrain from provoking Rob. No tricks, no plotting, no dredging up the past. Agreed. Agreed, Cheryl said with a smile. Rob, do you plan to move her into your place, or will you go back to your old home? Rob looked stunned. Why can't she stay with you? Because my place is too cramped for 3 or even 2 of us, she explained. I realize this is going to be toughest on you, Rob, Connie empathized. If you stay at your place, she'll know where you live. Yet, the other house holds too many painful memories for you. We'll stay at her place, decided Rob. It's our place, Cheryl interjected, tears starting to form. It's the house you bought for us, it's still your home too. Why is she crying? Rob asked, puzzled. Cheryl responded directly, noticing Rob was avoiding speaking to her. Because, Rob, I love you deeply and it hurts that you don't trust me enough to share your current address. Connie knows where you live, and you've known her for just a few months. You seem eager for me to recover so you can move on. It feels like I'm temporary, like broccoli you eat only to improve your health and then discard. You prefer returning to our old place, where you were hurt, rather than letting me into your new life. Being there will only remind you of the past and fuel your resentment towards me. By the end of this, I fear there will be no chance for us to reconcile. You hardly speak to me now, relying on Connie for everything, even though I'm right here. You think I'm worthless, Cheryl said. Here I am, longing for your touch after a whole year, and you won't even give me a glance. What a peace agreement we have. It's ironic, Rob, you called yourself a fool in your lecture, and I agree. I nearly lost my life in that mishap yesterday, yet I'd go through it all over again just to have you sit here, berating me, showing your disdain. Actually, I've reconsidered, Rob. You're the fool, too, because you're blind to how deeply I care for you. Silence followed her words, extending for days. It was over 3 days before Cheryl was discharged. A hospital bed was set up in her living room, and Rob took to sleeping in the guest room. Connie, when visiting, used Rob and Cheryl's former bedroom. Cheryl hadn't entered that room since Rob left, finding it too agonizing. She typically slept in the room Rob was now using. On his first night there, Rob was restless, haunted by her lingering presence in the bedding, but he steadfastly avoided any self-indulgence, fearing it would reveal his lingering desire for her. Rob or Connie had to be with Cheryl constantly, assisting her with basic needs, including bathroom visits. Rob's initial experience aiding Cheryl in this way left him red-faced. You can watch, Rob, Cheryl teased. After all, you're no stranger to my body. You used to cherish it so much. That was before I realized I wasn't the only one, Rob retorted sharply. Rob, you were the first and the most frequent, Cheryl countered. Great, Rob said sarcastically, among the myriad. I had the privilege of being with you more than once. Shame I wasn't the final one. You will be, Rob, I promise that. It's been over a year since anyone else has been close. And after we're together again, no one else will have that chance, except maybe the doctor for our future children, Cheryl claimed. Rob just shook his head. Let's move past this, he suggested as she finished with the bedpan. I'm done, Rob. I need you to clean me up, Cheryl said. Please be thorough, I want to feel completely clean. Rob, with biting sarcasm, replied, given the history, I'd need something much stronger for that job. Their bitter dialogue led to another lengthy silence. However, they gradually found a new routine, spending evenings together, watching TV or chatting after dinner, except when Connie took over, giving Rob some respite. They managed well, avoiding discussions of their past romance or any reconciliation, enjoying a semblance of harmony. "Why did you buy that car?" Cheryl asked one evening. "I'm not sure," Rob admitted. "I've always had my eye on one, and it felt like the right time." "Why didn't you get it when we were still a thing?" she inquired. "We had the means. While we were together, as you say," Rob explained, "I prioritized saving for our future, for our children, and for things that would make you happy." "What do you mean by together, as I say?" Cheryl pressed. "Rob, I'm not looking to argue. I just need you to understand some things." "Let's not forget our agreement," Rob reminded. "All right, what's her name?" Cheryl prodded. "Name? Who are you talking about?" Rob seemed puzzled. "The car, the one you obsess over every night." "Rob, with my legs in this condition, I can't move much. Until I recover more, I can't even use a wheelchair. So, some nights, instead of watching TV or reading, I ask Connie to open the windows and I watch you. It's become something I look forward to. You care for that car with such affection, like how you once cared for me. You wash and polish it, just like how you used to comfort me. When you work on that car, you're genuinely happy. It's the only time I see you smile. I'd do anything to receive that smile myself. And after all the cleaning and polishing, you kiss that car, and it shatters me. You're sharing the love that was supposed to be mine with an inanimate object. So, Rob, I need to know the name of this car." By the second week's end, Cheryl's nurse began reducing her dependency on the IV painkillers, introducing sleeping pills to help at night. This way, she managed her pain with pills during the day and used sleeping aids at night, reducing the strong pain medication in her system. Cheryl tried to maintain their peaceful agreement, but it was tough. Every night, regardless of whether Rob or Connie stayed with her, she always expressed her love to Rob before sleeping. Rob would simply respond with truce. Cheryl couldn't pinpoint when things started to change, but one evening, her frustration peaked. They were watching TV, and Rob seemed overly enchanted by the show's lead. She told him she was exhausted and wanted to sleep. After Rob turned off the TV and gave her the sleeping pill, she usually fell asleep quickly, but that night was different. Perhaps her irritation kept her awake. Just as she was drifting off, she noticed Rob looking around, seemingly searching for something, or perhaps someone like Connie. But then, to her surprise, he approached her bed, gave her a gentle kiss on the cheek, and whispered, "Good night, honey, I love you too," before retiring to his own bed, alone. Cheryl was in disbelief. How long had this been happening? The following morning, Connie inquired why Cheryl seemed upset. "He was all worked up over some character on TV, right in front of me," Cheryl retorted, choosing not to disclose the evening's full story to Connie. "That's silly," Connie remarked. "You should watch that show with him. He's probably drawn to her because she resembles you." Cheryl had an epiphany, realizing Connie might be onto something. Moreover, she acknowledged the ticking clock. Her injury was healing, and soon she wouldn't need Rob's help. Their quarrels had dominated the past month, with her insecurities pushing Rob further away. That evening, when Rob returned home to take over from Connie, he found Cheryl perusing an old photo album. Observing her flipping through the memories, he approached to serve her a drink. Cheryl hoped that revisiting their shared past might rekindle their bond, reminding him of their early days when they were each other's world. "Do you remember this?" she whispered, showing Rob a snapshot from their honeymoon departure. "We were so content and deeply in love back then," she mused. Rob scoffed. "One of us was," he retorted coldly. Cheryl considered this a small victory. He hadn't walked away or reacted with fury. "Remember what happened that night?" she prompted gently, recalling a moment they once cherished deeply. In Cheryl's mind, it was a treasured memory, but she didn't grasp that Rob's perspective had shifted, suspecting her feelings had never been genuine. "That was a memorable night," she said softly, lost in nostalgia, thinking about their conversations and passionate moments. Rob's scoff turned into a scowl, leaving Cheryl puzzled about his irritation. "Somehow with you, everything comes back to intimacy, doesn't it?" he retorted sharply. "You've always been your own person, long before we met, and a very unique one at that. I thought you were my person when you said you loved me. So, it wasn't about physical intimacy. That night, all that happened was I realized you were just preparing for the many others you'd move on to when you grew tired of me." "So, Rob, how many people were you with before we met?" Cheryl inquired. "Be honest, I'm aware of at least 5 or 6. So, you're way ahead of me in terms of experiences." "The difference is, I stopped when I met you," Rob replied. "I understood what it was like and I enjoyed it, but I stopped because of you. Since we met, there's been no one but you. I honored the commitment we made, that's what sets us apart. I've waited my whole life for someone like you, Rob. You were my first. My love for you is deeper than you'll ever understand. Being with you was magical and unique, and nothing has ever compared to that. But I didn't realize how special it was because I had no other experiences. I felt that everyone else was exploring and experiencing incredible things that I had never tried. And Rob, partly, it was because you spoiled me. You made me feel like the most special woman in the world. And I just wanted to understand what they were talking about. The first person was energetic, but it was terrible because they were clueless and turned out to be very unpleasant. It made me feel undervalued and foolish. They suggested I try someone older and more experienced who would be gentle and caring. He ended up being unreliable and took my money. After that, you stopped being intimate with me. They suggested I try once more with someone very confident and assertive. Rob, I know what you think happened, but as soon as it started, I realized it was a mistake and felt what was missing. Didn't you see that I was unresponsive? You told Connie that I went along with it. You were right. I just wanted it to end and agreed without meaning it. There was talk about wanting more, but honestly, Rob, I was thinking about what to cook for dinner. That's why I said things like just do it. What I really wanted was for him to leave and for us to have our space back. I decided then not to go down that path again. I never had the chance to explore like others did in their youth, Rob. I didn't have those teenage moments. So I got carried away for a bit, and you can't seem to forgive me. 14 years of joy should make up for a brief lapse of judgment. Cheryl, if you had stopped after the first incident, I'd have been upset, but we could have moved past it, said Rob. You could have shared your feelings like you are now and we might have resolved it. But it was too late after that. You prioritized your colleagues' opinions over our relationship and your curiosity over us. So now you can explore and figure out all you want. You're free to do as you please, as long as it's not with me. He gave a resigned shrug. What I don't understand, he continued, is why you didn't just come to me and say, Rob, this has been great, but there are things I want to try that I can't do while with you. That would have been honest and the right way to handle it. I would have agreed to a separation, and once we separated, you could have freely explored your desires. Why deceive me? That just led to resentment. Because, you jerk, Cheryl retorted sharply. You weren't naive, and I wanted our marriage to last. I loved you then as much as I do now, and I'll love you even more as time goes by. I just made a terrible mistake. Can't you understand that, Rob? I'm not perfect. I made a horrendous choice. I was foolish. We are destined to be together, but I ruined it. I regret it every single day. The day you left, I felt like my world ended. The worst moments for me were when I received the divorce papers and when the divorce was finalized. It haunts me in my dreams. You talk about nightmares. Rob exploded. I have nights where I wake up terrified, reliving the betrayal. I wish, just once, you could feel what I felt. But that's not going to happen. It will never happen, Rob, Cheryl snapped back. I couldn't stand it. The next day, Rob accompanied Cheryl to have her cast removed. He brought her home and settled her into bed. Returning from work, Rob found a strange man in the dining room with Cheryl and Connie. Cheryl greeted him with a tentative smile, their first exchange since the heated argument. Sit down, Rob, Cheryl instructed. Initially, Rob mistook the man for a doctor but soon realized the situation was different. The man questioned Cheryl extensively, then turned to Rob with a document in hand. Here are the findings from your wife's examination, the man declared. Ex-wife, Rob corrected. Not according to this, the man countered. She insists you're still married in her eyes, despite the legal divorce. And she was sincere. He continued, revealing Cheryl's admissions and truths, her infidelities, her lack of enjoyment in them, her desire not to conceive with the other man, yet her deep yearning to have a child, ideally with Rob. She had loved no other man but Rob, she confessed, and her love for him was as strong as ever, confirmed by her truthful answers. See, I told you, Cheryl exclaimed. The man extended a device resembling a medical cuff. Rob recoiled from him. It's your turn, sir, the man stated. I have some questions for you as well. Rob glanced at the list. It contained only 5 questions. I don't need to go through this, he asserted, moving towards the exit. First question, Cheryl yelled. Did you dislike Cheryl's actions? You'll say yes, and it will be the truth. Second question, do you despise Cheryl? You'll answer yes again, but you'll be deceiving yourself, Rob. Third question, do you wish things could return to how they were before? You desire it as much as I do, she yelled. Rob forcefully shut the door. Fourth question, do you want me back? You'll deny it, but you'll be fibbing again. And the fifth question, Rob, do you still love me? Your answer will be no, and it'll be a lie, Cheryl shouted. You're being absurd, Cheryl, Rob shouted, re-entering the room. Rob, so are you, she retorted. You're just stubborn. If you despise me so much, why do you whisper I love you and kiss me goodnight every night when you think I'm asleep? Rob, you even kissed me in the hospital. Why can't you just be honest? The only barrier between us now is your pride. That, and the fact you squandered what we had, Rob replied. I won't let you harm me again. Not under any circumstances, no matter my feelings. They sat in silence, exchanging stern looks, before Rob ascended the stairs to his room. You pushed him too far, Cheryl, Connie remarked. I realize that, Cheryl admitted, tears streaming down her face. But he just infuriates me. Sometimes, when I see him, I yearn to embrace him, and I can't. Watching TV together at night, I'm tormented by not being able to kiss or cuddle him. I ache constantly. I was desperate. I thought showing him the test results might make him see I was being honest. I doubt he even considered that, Connie responded. But pressuring him into taking the test too was a mistake. Cheryl, I've been saying from the start we need to approach this delicately. We perceive this differently than men do. For many men, their partner's infidelity is a hit to their ego and manhood. What you saw as curiosity or exploration, most men would view as a sign of their inadequacy. If he ever takes you back, he must confront the notion that others may see him as weak. So, regardless of his love for you, what you've done has only driven him further away. Cheryl nodded solemnly. I understand, Connie, but I'm at my wit's end. In just 2 weeks, these casts on my legs will be removed. My legs will need time to regain strength, and I'll manage to move around. But then, he won't have any reason to stay. I have just 14 days to win back my husband. Do you really appreciate his nightly visits, just to bid you good night? Connie inquired. Absolutely, Cheryl responded. It's the highlight of my day. But you've just let that slip away. He won't continue that now, especially after you confronted him, Connie remarked. Things shifted that night, just as Connie had foreseen. Rob still cared for Cheryl, honoring his commitment, yet the dynamics altered. Now that Cheryl could use her arm again, Rob ceased assisting her in the bathroom. Although he still brought her dinner, he didn't linger to chat or watch TV with her. What Cheryl longed for the most were those tender goodnight kisses and the soft murmurs expressing his love. Regardless of Cheryl's efforts, Rob maintained his silence, speaking only to inquire about her needs or dinner preferences. He avoided any further conversation. 2 weeks later, on the anniversary of their dispute about Cheryl's lie detector test, Cheryl had her casts removed. Walking was still challenging, and physical therapy loomed ahead. The doctors also warned of a possible slight limp, given the slight disparity in leg length after her ankle surgery. Yet, none of this seemed significant to Cheryl. Overwhelmed with emotion and struggling to breathe, she sensed Rob's impending departure, likely immediate upon their return home, and felt powerless. Silently, they drove back from the hospital. Rob carefully helped her inside from the car, despite the doctor's advice for Cheryl to start walking and become more self-reliant. He went upstairs and soon returned with his suitcases, already packed. Tears welled in Cheryl's eyes. As he placed the suitcases by the door and stood before her, he finally spoke. You were right, he said. I avoided the test because my love for you is overwhelming. What happened between us pains me deeply, but my love for you is unparalleled. Then why must you leave? Cheryl whispered. After what you did, Cheryl, trust is impossible. You meant everything to me, and you wounded me too deeply for us to mend things. It's time we both moved on, he declared. No, Cheryl countered firmly, there is no moving on for me. Through all this, I've realized you're the one I need. No matter how long it takes, I'll wait. Even if we reunite at 80, I'll be here, steadfastly yours. Perhaps you'll pursue someone younger or find comfort in someone more seasoned. It would wound me, Rob, but I believe you'd return to me eventually. It's inevitable. You might indulge in fleeting connections, only to discover the time we lost. Rob softly kissed her, this time on the lips, then departed. For over 3 months, Cheryl and her friend Connie had no contact with Rob. Although Cheryl and Connie remained friends, a shadow of sorrow lingered between them, avoiding any mention of Rob. Connie resumed her social outings, attempting to engage Cheryl in dating or socializing, to no avail. Recall the outcome of our last outing, Cheryl reminded her. Then, unexpectedly, an invitation arrived for both on the same day, Rob's wedding. Devastated, Cheryl had harbored hopes of reconciliation. She believed that after some casual relationships, Rob would return to her, especially since he had confessed his love. Yet, she hadn't anticipated him falling for someone else. Will you attend? Connie inquired cautiously. Yes, Cheryl replied. Why endure that agony? Questioned Connie. Because my love for him surpasses everything, Cheryl explained. I desire his happiness above all, even if it's not with me. I'll seize any opportunity to see him. As he shut the door behind him, a tall, slender yet curvy woman who seemed vaguely familiar emerged from the white car, visibly upset. Rob, you tricked me, she exclaimed angrily. I did not, he retorted loudly. I'm simply quicker. You are not, she retorted, her expression souring. While speaking, she bent down to remove her flats, and someone in the crowd handed her a pair of white high-heeled shoes. The woman was dressed in an unusual ensemble. The top part was white, adorned with tiny pearls and sparkles, ending in a pair of short, stylish bottoms. Beneath, she wore white thigh-high stockings, and the high heels she had just put on accentuated her already impressive legs. Connie felt a twinge of jealousy, reminiscing about how her own legs looked before her mishap. I won fair and square, it's time to settle the bet, Rob declared, his eyes gleaming with intensity. I owe you nothing, the woman retorted sharply. Something about her face seemed familiar to Cheryl. Then, someone in the crowd handed the woman a long, silky skirt, which she quickly attached, transforming her outfit into an elegant bridal gown. Meanwhile, Rob received a tuxedo jacket. The woman stared at Rob, her expression softening as he dressed. Her smile radiated her affection for Rob. Fine, you won, even if you had an advantage, she conceded. Here's your reward. She moved into Rob's embrace, and they shared a prolonged embrace. I love you, Rob, she confessed, and Cheryl felt her heart sink. Let's get married. I feel the same, Molly, Rob responded. They then proceeded towards the church. Cheryl, overwhelmed by emotion, sank to her knees, ruining the dress she had invested in. Unable to bear watching Rob marry Molly, she stayed outside, realizing that Molly was the perfect match for Rob. Molly, younger and with a past of her own, was ready to settle down in a way Cheryl never could. With a heavy heart, Cheryl silently wished Rob the best and retreated to face her solitude, accepting the consequences of her own actions. Final update. Cheryl sank into a deep sadness, her days clouded by melancholy, and she found herself rarely leaving the comfort of her home. This phase lingered for a month, but gradually, she began to see a change. Cheryl engaged in volunteer work and took on additional tasks at her job, finding solace in the busyness. She ventured into dating again, though the experiences were far from successful. During a dinner date, she abruptly realized the futility of her attempts to move on, confessing to her date that her heart belonged to another, and abruptly left the restaurant. Time passed, and Cheryl found temporary distractions from her sorrow, especially when volunteering at an orphanage, where she pondered the children she and Rob could have had. Nearly 8 months post the near encounter with Rob's wedding, Cheryl was at work when Molly, a tall woman with dark blonde hair, approached her with a fierce look. Without warning, Molly slapped Cheryl, causing her to fall from her chair. The office was in uproar, with colleagues rushing to the scene. Molly warned Cheryl with a stern calmness about overstepping boundaries again, leaving Cheryl bewildered and questioning why Molly, who seemed to have won her desired outcome, was displaying such hostility. Molly retorted cryptically about the hollowness of her victory, hinting at unresolved feelings and unfinished business, urging Cheryl to follow her for a resolution. Connie, a colleague, intervened, insisting Cheryl stay, leading to a heated exchange with Molly, who insinuated the grimness of Cheryl's future should she refuse to follow. As Molly exited, Cheryl, driven by a mix of defiance and hope, followed closely behind. Meanwhile, Rob arrived home, discovering a note on his door that brought a knowing smile to his face, hinting at the unresolved and complex emotions entangled in the past and present relationships. Rob mused on the notion of a post-apocalyptic world, devoid of technology and largely bereft of human life. Navigating the desolation, he sought refuge in abandoned structures. That night, he discovered a room atop a staircase, and upon settling into bed, he realized it was already occupied by a silent woman. Communication was hindered, no words could be exchanged, compelling them to convey emotions in unspoken ways, keeping the room enshrouded in darkness. Rob chuckled to himself. Molly was always inventive in maintaining the vibrancy of their relationship, often through imaginative scenarios. Accepting the challenge, he ascended to their bedroom, enveloped in darkness. The familiar layout was altered, prompting a whispered reprimand from Molly for breaking their no-speaking rule. He navigated the room, guided by touch, eventually finding the bed and, subsequently, Molly. Removing his attire, he sensed Molly's presence more acutely, her breath quickening with each movement. Rob explored cautiously, encountering Molly's leg, and followed its contour, eliciting further reactive sounds. His journey led him to discover the scent of strawberries, signaling one of Molly's aromatic lotions. He continued, guided by scent and touch, through the playful darkness, their silent communication painting a vivid tableau of their enduring connection. The experience was subtly unfamiliar, textures and tastes diverged slightly from the usual. Yet, in the darkness, they found each other anew, exploring and reaffirming their bond without words, their actions a testament to their deep, unspoken understanding and affection. This time, all he tasted was strawberries, and it was delightful. She was much more appealing without the lingering bitterness of tobacco. He felt her gentle touch, guiding him as they connected, moving together rhythmically. Molly seemed more relaxed than usual, possibly due to the strawberry scent in the air, but it didn't matter because the experience was uniquely satisfying. Rob struggled to put into words how he felt. It was simply better, undeniably so. They moved in unison, lost in the moment. Normally, Molly was unpredictable in her movements, but this time she was in control, holding him tightly and moving with precision. Their connection intensified, and Molly managed to stifle her exclamation, biting into his shoulder as waves of emotion overtook her. Rob was close behind, lost in the intensity of the moment. Their encounter, though short, was intense, leaving Rob drained. Molly, reinvigorated, took the lead, her actions surprising and thrilling Rob. She knew exactly how to elicit his deepest responses. In a tender exchange, they explored new heights of intimacy until Molly decided to freshen up, maintaining her usual post-intimacy routine. Left alone, Rob awaited her return, reflecting on the profound experience. "How was that, Rob?" she inquired upon returning. "It was the best," he confessed. "The best with me, or just in recent memory?" Molly prodded. "Neither," Rob replied. "It was the best experience of my life. Our first time was wild, and the second was sweet and loving. This was a perfect blend, with every movement and moment feeling just right. The way you moved against me was incredible. I've never felt anything like it." "Maybe you did," Molly said, turning on the light. Rob's vision was blurry, but he could see Molly perched on her suitcases, fully clothed. "How'd you get ready so quickly?" Rob asked, confused. "I've been ready the whole time, honey," Molly replied calmly. "What's happening?" Rob demanded. "Rob, I love you," Molly began, her tone sincere. "Remember the modeling offer I got recently, to go back to New York?" "Yes," Rob recalled. "I said I'd move there with you if you wanted." Molly continued. "I know you would, Rob. You're wonderful, and we could have had a decent life. But decent isn't enough. I want you to be truly happy, and I know deep down you wouldn't be with me. Rob, puzzled, asked, what do you mean? Molly sighed. Rob, have you noticed that sometimes, during our intimate moments, you call me Cheryl? I'm sorry, Rob stammered. She was a significant part of my life for so long. I tried to overlook it, Molly admitted. But you've been talking in your sleep, expressing love for her. That's why I initiated our intimate moment today as a sort of test. Confused, Rob replied, but I enjoyed today, told you it was the best. Molly shook her head. No, Rob. It was the best because it's where your heart truly lies. Rob looked bewildered as Molly approached him, offered a tender embrace and a kiss. I've left the separation papers on the kitchen table. We haven't been together long, so there's nothing complicated to sort out. I hope you two find happiness and name the baby thoughtfully. She withdrew, glancing at her watch. I need to catch my flight. And Rob, make my decision count. Follow your heart, it'll guide you right. As Molly exited the room, she called out to Rob, and don't even think about taking my car. Just send it to me. Then the sound of the front door signaled her departure. Cheryl emerged from the bathroom, her voice tinged with regret. Please don't be upset, Rob, she implored. I didn't mean to deceive you. When she made her proposal, I was overwhelmed. I've missed you so much. Rob could only shake his head as Cheryl rambled on. I hoped for everything to be perfect and romantic, but I got carried away, she admitted. I just needed to be close to you again. It's been too long. Rob, it's your call. What happens now? I'm sorry, my feelings for you are just too strong. Rob took Cheryl's hand, guiding her to the door. Rob, please, I don't want to go, she started. Rob gently pressed his finger to her lips to quiet her. Then he turned off the lights, plunging the room into darkness. He led her to the bed, carefully lifting her onto it. They lay together, and in that moment, everything seemed to align perfectly. Then he paused. Sorry, he murmured. I should have checked with you first. Is this what you want? Cheryl, puzzled, asked, what do you mean by this, Rob? He hesitated. I mean, us having a casual relationship. Just meeting up now and then. If that's what you prefer, Rob, she replied. I just enjoy being with you, however that may be. Rob sighed. It's not really what I want, he admitted. Maybe this should just be a fleeting moment. Cheryl, close to tears, asked, what do you need, Rob? I'll be whatever you need. I promise. He was unsure. It's going to be hard. I'll do anything, Rob. Just give me a chance, she pleaded. All right, he said after a pause. You're going to have to commit to me again. First thing tomorrow, Rob, she promised. But tonight, let's make up for the time we lost. I love you, Cheryl, he replied. I want to leave the past behind and look ahead. However, if there's ever a hint of betrayal, I'll leave, and there won't be another chance for us. Rob, I promise you, it won't happen again. Now I truly value what we have, and I wouldn't jeopardize it for anything. 3 weeks later, at their second wedding, Cheryl's maid of honor, Connie, met the man she would marry. This time, Rob and Cheryl's union lasted, and they aged together, fulfilling their shared dream. At their golden anniversary, when a friend inquired about the secret to their enduring happiness, Rob attributed it to Molly, faith, patience, and love. Wait, the friend interjected. Aren't those your children's names? Yes, Cheryl confirmed. Molly was named after a dear friend, crucial to our reconciliation after a major mistake I made years ago. Rob added, we called our second child Faith because it was Cheryl's unwavering belief in our bond that kept us together, even when I had my doubts. Patience is the name of our third daughter, Rob continued, reflecting the patience Cheryl showed me as I struggled to trust again, sometimes becoming inexplicably upset with her. And our youngest, Love, Cheryl concluded, because ultimately, it was our love for each other that truly made the difference and sustained us. My comment, history repeats itself over and over when it comes to those who are mindless, weak-willed sheep and are beyond sheer stupidity. They crave the need to be accepted and long to be in a group rather than stand on their own.